What is going on, everyone? We are here with another spotlight interview series. I feel like I say that all the time now, like that's my whole life at this point. But you guys know the drill at this point. We're here with a new artist every week, and I'm excited to welcome Gabrielle Metz onto the show today. She is a super talented singer-songwriter and definitely a huge fan of some of her stuff that she has out. She just recently released a cover of More Hearts Than Mine, and I'm in love with that cover. Like, it's just amazing and how talented she is. So we're gonna hear her story through music today. And Gabrielle, how are you today?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me.
No, of course. I appreciate just any artist like that just takes time out of their day to do this interview because it just means the world to me. And I know at the end of the day, it means a lot to them just to get more exposure and just to share their story through music on how you all started through music and just what your journey's like in the whole music industry. So it's just really cool. And I always just appreciate the
Yeah,
time that people take.
absolutely. Anytime. Literally, I love doing this and just chatting and having a
No,
conversation. So I'm
No,
excited.
exactly. And it's just funny because a lot of people, I think I just said this in one of my recent interviews, is like back in high school and stuff, I used to be a super shy kid. So like I
Mhm.
never used to do any of this stuff. And now during when the pandemic hit in 2020 is when I really started this whole interview series. And I think it just
Yeah.
helped me grow more as a person too and just outreach more and then social aspect and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, in the music industry, it's always really key to make those connections and open new doors because you never know where things are
Yeah.
going to lead. So it's just super, super powerful to do all that.
Absolutely. And I feel like my career grew more than I ever would have imagined in the last 2 years. That I don't know that it would have the same way if we hadn't, gone through the process that we ended up having to go through. So,
Exactly.
I get
So
it.
kind of before we hop into all the questions, is if you want to just let the people know a little bit about like just not even music wise, just like who you are, where you're at, kind of just what you're doing before we hop into all the questions.
Absolutely. Well, I am originally from Alabama. I've been here in Nashville for about 4 years, just past my 4 year mark. Right now, I'm just working on music. We've got a new single that we're going to be putting out April the 8th. So just kind of starting to gear up for that. And yeah, just writing a ton, doing what I can right now.
No, that's awesome. I mean, that's just the dream. I mean, when I started songwriting in 2018, like that's just, it's always been a passion of mine. And now I think about it,
Mhm.
it's been, geez, what, 19, 20, 20, I can't count. So it's been like 4 or 5 years
Four
now
or
that I've
five
been
years. Yeah.
writing. And it's crazy how long it's been that I've just been
Absolutely.
grinding on this and then just doing co-writes and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
that's what really this whole spotlight series is about, is just making those connections, like I said, because now I've written and co-written with so many different artists and have learned so many different techniques in the last 5 years. And I'm sure
Yes.
Nashville probably is like times two from what I'm doing because it's just there's so many people
I can
down
imagine. Yes,
there.
there are. I remember I was in town 2 years before I put music out because I got to town and I'm from a really small town in Alabama. And so I got to Nashville and I like had my first co-write and I was like, that was my focus for the first almost 2 years that I was in town. I just wrote with as many people as I could. And I was just like a sponge. I just sat in that room and like absorbed everything that I could. And I think that my writing is just 10 times better because of it.
No, and that's awesome. And later on in the interview, we'll get into kind of your whole creative process and how you really write a song and just form all that. So,
Of
but
course.
getting with the first question is I always start with the basic of basics, and everyone knows that is how did music start for you? Like some people, like for me, for example, like I only started in 2018 with songwriting and producing. So that was only
Yeah.
5 years ago. But then some people start the day they were born. They start humming and singing the day they come out. And it's just crazy. So how did like the whole music thing start for you? Singing and like playing guitar, just where did all that come about for you?
Yeah. So I grew, I mean, I singing wise, I really did almost come out of the womb singing. There's a video that my mom actually sorted through. I was home probably, it was for Christmas. So about 3 months ago now. And she pulls this big box out of the back of her closet. And then she comes downstairs. I'm like, what do you have? And she says, the old home videos. I have a video that I need to find. And I was like, oh my God. We spent the entire weekend, 2 full days going through these VHS tapes. She found a VHS player. I don't know how, I don't know where. She found one And we spent the entire weekend sorting through these VHS tapes, and this little probably 5-minute clip comes on one of them. She's like, "This is what I was looking for." And it is me sprawled out in my toddler bed with my dad knelt down on the floor, like to put me to bed at night. And I'm just singing God Bless America at the top of my lungs. And I'm like 2, maybe. And she's like, "This is what I was looking for. I needed you to see this." And so I've been singing as long as I can remember. I just always loved it. Um, my parents tried their best to make us musical kids. They put us in piano, guitar lessons from like age 4, and I hated it. I hated it. I was so ADD, couldn't stay still. It made no sense to me. So, needless to say, by age like 7 or 8, I was done with it and I had learned nothing. Um, so I really kind of, aside for just singing for fun, didn't do much musical until I was about 13 or 14. And must have been 13 because I went to a Carrie Underwood concert and I saw her play in Atlanta, and I was like, "Oh my God, like people do this for a living." Like I think that that's really cool. And I started playing guitar, and I was really kind of like starting to weigh that option of like, yeah, I could do music for a living. But it still sort of seemed pipe dreamish. And then I hit 14 or 15, and I was teaching myself how to play guitar, and I was writing songs, and um, I just kind of made the decision. I was like, I'm going to pursue this full time. And I went to my parents and my guidance counselor at school, and I enrolled in online school before it was a thing.
Mhm.
And I was part of the pilot program for my school. I had to like get special permission to do it. And I graduated early and was in Nashville 6 weeks later.
That's crazy. I mean, it's always so cool to hear people's upcoming in music and how they really started, just because like I said, it's so unique for every different artist,
Mhm.
whether it was at an early age or just recently like myself, and it's just
Absolutely.
super super cool. And I know people I don't even know what I'm trying to say anymore. I've done so many of these at this point, but it's just I always lean towards the country artists, I think, when I do
Yeah.
these interviews, and a majority of
Mhm.
people are country. So that's why I love doing interviews like this, just because, especially this next question, is
Mhm.
like inspirations and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, like there's so many people that I know I look up to myself in the music business, whether it's Garth Brooks, Chris Daughtry, I mean,
Yeah.
I could go on and on, Luke Combs, like just to name a few people from like past, present, and future. But
Yeah.
it just the inspirations are just so cool and unique. And I feel like you'll probably have a few that I haven't named yet. But who are some people that you kind of look up to in the music business that really like help you? And even kind of like another little side question onto this one. I know I'm throwing like a million questions at you,
No,
but
please do.
like even like your parents, like did they really
Mhm.
kind of like push and inspire you to like really just take that leap and go to Nashville and like just all that? So like what are and who are some of your inspirations?
Yeah, my parents are fantastic. They are both physical therapists, so music is not their world at all. Um, but when I told them about it, I mean, they're very pragmatic. So I sat down and I was like, "I want to do this and I want to move." And my mom was like, "Okay, we will do what we can to support you." She's like, "You're gonna have to, do the work. You're gonna have to find a job. Like we can't, send you up there and pay your bills. We're a middle class income. That's not gonna swing it." But she was like, "If you can come up with," she wanted a 6-month plan, a 1-year plan, and a 5-year plan. She was like, "If you can really think this through and put this down on paper for me, and we go over it together, then we're fully behind you." She's like, "But you're not gonna like, pardon my language, but you're not gonna half-ass this." And so I did. I sat down and I made them my plans and my goals and exactly what I was gonna do. And granted, not all of those came to fruition in the time frame I had put them in, but it was serious enough that they were like, "All right," and they have been all in since.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, they were definitely level-headed about it, but were in full support. So they're fantastic. They don't understand this business at all, but they are at every show that they can be at. My dad flew out to Houston with me a week and a half ago because I was having a gig out there. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna come tag along." Bought a plane ticket and came with me. So they're fantastic. But yeah, as for they were not obviously very musical, but they loved music. I mean, music was always playing in our house. Anything from country to rock to Motown. I mean, like I had almost everything growing up. The only thing that was lacking was like hip hop R&B. That was not really ever played in my house, but anything else, it was played in the Metz household. So I got a lot of a melting pot of influences kind of growing up, but country wise and like the people that really kind of influenced my music and what I do now, when Carrie Underwood was a big one, I always really leaned towards powerhouse females. I think I saw myself in them and I was like, if they're doing this, I can do it. So I really latched on to them. So Carrie Underwood, Kelsey Ballerini, more recently, Ingrid Andress. I adore her writing style and just, she's great. So those are probably ones that really have kind of bookmarked like important chapters of my life for those three. But also, people like Keith Urban or Hunter Hayes, people that are just great musicians and great performers, and you named several of them as well. So
no, exactly. I mean, we could just go on and on talking about inspirations and talking about millions of artists. I could be here. I could just create a whole show just about that. Because I could sit here for hours. It's always cool because I don't think anyone's actually ever said Keith Urban. So shout out to Keith Urban. I know he'll never see this, but
so great.
No, he's amazing. And like I definitely I always I listen to a lot of his songs, but like I think I just keep him on the back burner because I never really think about him. But like shout out to him and props to you for saying him because I would have never thought of that in a million years. I always shout out Garth Brooks because that one's easy enough to remember because I'm going to see him in about 2 months, I believe. I think it's
I have never had the pleasure of seeing him live. Everybody, you haven't either?
No, I have not either.
Oh, everybody says he's great live and like just top notch. I would love to see him, but I have not at this point. I've seen Keith a few times and he's just a little firecracker on stage. And his guitar playing is just,
it's through the roof.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. No, because I've never seen Garth Brooks, but that's always been on my bucket list. And my mom's a big music person too. So it's always been on her bucket list. So he was supposed to come back in October. Little side story before we get into the next question, but he was supposed to come last October, but COVID was still kind of ramping up around here. So he ended up canceling the show and he wasn't sure if he was going to come back here because there weren't any dates available. But then I think it was the middle of January is when he came out and said that something opened up in May of this year at Gillette Stadium where the Patriots play. So he was like, I'm taking it and I'm coming back to Gillette Stadium. So I told my mom and I was like, listen, the tickets go on sale in like 2 weeks. Like I'm buying them.
Yep.
So I bought like 6 or 7 tickets, bringing some family, and it's gonna be a great time because that's just gonna be something I can check off my bucket list. And it's not every day that you get to go see Garth Brooks play live.
No, not at all. I've had a few family members that have seen them. My aunt and uncle actually saw him at the Houston Rodeo, I think 2 years ago. And I mean, just over video, I was like, wow, I can't imagine, like, you're going to have a blast. It's going to be amazing in person.
No, exactly. And just talking about some of these great artists, a lot of things that they have in common are their songwriting is because the thing I lean towards when it comes to songwriting is the storytelling aspect. And a lot of people know that's a lot of how I write my songs is just telling that story from the beginning to end. And just really drawing them into the middle of the book, like to get that point across and then just getting to the end where it's just like, you could close your eyes and just paint that whole picture in your head. That's how vivid the songwriting is. And it's so unique and just crazy. It doesn't matter whether it's country, hip hop, R&B, like every artist is just so unique when it comes to their creative process and writing songs. And kind of before I formally ask the question is I always have to quote Garrett Walker, shout out to him. He said the best quote I think that I've ever had on the series is The creative process is like doing a puzzle. Whether you have 500 to 1,000 pieces, you have them all scattered around. You don't know where anything's going. And then eventually you start like putting the border together. You start working on the middle and you
Yep.
put these pieces together and you've realized where they all fit. And then by the end, you have this masterpiece. You have something that you can cherish, that you can hang up on your wall, that other people can look at and just
Yep.
share with you. So it's always a great quote that I love using by him because it just makes so much sense when it comes to the writing process and just creating a song. So at the end of the day, my question is what is your creative process like when it comes to writing music?
Um, I don't really have a set process, to be honest, which I think is what makes it fun and keeps it interesting for me. A lot of times it does tend to at least start with the lyrics, um, just because I always, when I'm listening to music, anything like that, I'm gonna hear the lyrics first. I'm gonna digest them before really anything else. So I do tend to kind of start with that. Sometimes it's super random, and I mean, like last night, I was like getting ready for bed and was just like, I had a playlist just kind of on shuffle throughout my apartment, and this new song came on, and I just like, it's always fun when another artist kind of inspires you to write something. And some line in the song just like triggered something in my brain. And I was like, oh, that would be really interesting if it was flipped this way.
Yeah.
And I just sat down literally in my floor with my notes app on my phone and just, I mean, in 20 minutes wrote out this entire song. And it's not hashed out at all. Um, but for the most part, like all the lyrics are at least done, and that's always so fun. I love those almost like zeitgeist moments where it's just like boom and it's there. Those tend to be my favorite songs, honestly. But yeah, I've felt like in the last year or so, my creative process has really changed a bit more introspective rather than having a bunch of co-writes.
Mhm.
I still co-write, occasionally, but I've just been really like writing by myself a lot the last year and a half, which is a lot of fun.
Right.
Um, but like we mentioned earlier, I spent the first 2 years just like absorbing everything in Nashville and just wanting to learn everything. And sometimes it's nice to like get back in touch with like yourself as a writer, not just who you are in the room with other people.
Exactly.
Um, so yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and that creative process is always changing for me, and I think that's what keeps it interesting and why I love it so much.
Right. And it's so funny because whenever I ask that question, I feel like 95% of the artists, when they first start that question, the words that they use are, I don't really have a process. Like that's
Yeah,
how it always starts with everyone. They're like, I don't really
there's
have a set way. Like that's
there's
just, and
no
it's
step by step here.
exactly. And trust me, like I don't have the perfect answer either. Like my stuff's all over the place. Like I can write a song sometimes, like if I really sit down and like I have the emotions that day, I can write a song in 2 hours. Like I wrote about my grandfather. That
Yeah,
that first song that I wrote is that was like 2 hours and that was nothing. Like because I was going through
yeah,
so many emotions and stuff like that. But then some songs I've had for months and years that are like half wrote and like I have like two lines and I'm like, okay,
yep.
eventually I'll write this, but then they get crinkled up and get thrown in a barrel somewhere. So
Absolutely.
it's always just crazy to see that because it's just so unique and it's so cool. And
Is-
I'm gonna get into the fourth question, and that's always the hardest question that I ask. And
Okay.
it's very complicated because there's no wrong or right answer to this question. And people ask us all the time. They're like, well, there has to be a wrong or right answer. And there isn't because at the end of the day, people are still creating their craft and are still trying to figure out who they are. And with TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, all streaming platforms, all like social media
Mhm.
aspects, there's so many artists up and coming nowadays. And especially down in Nashville, you know this,
Mm.
there's new artists everywhere trying to make a name for themselves, playing shows and just getting exposure. And
Absolutely.
again, it doesn't matter what genre it's in. So my question kind of at the end of the day is what makes you stand out and what like can people really take from your music, and just kind of the way I guess I'll phrase the question just a little better is what makes Gabrielle Metz Gabrielle Metz?
Yeah. I think that the worst thing that we can do as artists is get into a competitive mindset and act like there's not enough seats at the table for all of us. I think that this is such a craft that is so dependent on our emotions and our relationships and how we interact with other people, that bringing that competitive nature into it is just, to me, the kind of the worst thing that you can do. We're so much better when we're learning from each other and we're feeding off of each other, because we all have unique experiences and different things to bring to the table. And that's just, as unique as our experiences can be, we're all humans at the end of the day, and we're experiencing the same emotions. So I think, I would love to say that, I am just the most incredible writer in the world and you're never going to find anyone better than me, but that's just absolutely not the truth. We all have, unique experiences and different things to bring to the table, and hopefully that connects with people at some point, and that's just kind of the dream.
No,
So
exactly. No, and I just kind of like what you said with connecting with people, is that's really what I think that's what makes me stand out too, is if I can write a song that just really connects with someone else, then at the end of the day, that's a life goal for me. Like that's it. Like I've succeeded and it's good enough for me.
exactly.
Like I can just stop songwriting, I can just stop everything, and once I connect with some people, then that's just really what hits me and makes me stand
Yep.
out too. So
Yep.
uh
Absolutely. Same
yeah.
way. I think I'm a little bit more of a junkie about it. Once that one connects, I'm like, I need to do that again. But yes, same, exactly.
Yeah, no, so that's those questions. And then we've talked about your past, we've kind of talked about what you're doing now, but then getting into the future is kind of the last question that I normally ask. And it's just kind of like, what are your goals as an artist? Obviously, I think you talked earlier, like you made that plan with your mom when you moved down to Nashville. So it's kind of
Yeah.
something like this along the lines, is what are your goals as an artist? Where do you want to go with your music? Obviously, you have some stuff out now. You just released that latest song. And just
Yeah.
what else can we expect down the road from you?
Of course. Yeah. So I do have a new single that's coming out on April the 8th, which I'm super excited about. It took a little bit of time to get this one out, but I think we finally just kind of got it perfect, and I'm excited for everybody to hear it. It's definitely, I feel like, the most personal song that I have put out so far. It's just very raw and vulnerable, and I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm a little nervous to kick it out in the world, but I'm excited. Um, yeah, I think, end of the day, my goals are kind of what we were just talking about, is connecting with people, and, hopefully at some point making a living off of this so we can quit our day jobs. That's of course always part of the dream. Yeah, I just want to do music for a living and love what I'm doing every day and connect with people, and whatever comes with that, great.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, I'm on the same boat, as I'm just doing these interviews. I'm just writing and doing what I can. And hopefully,
Yep.
maybe eventually the plan will be to move down to Nashville at some point. I mean, that's always been the plan in my head, but who knows when that'll. Hey,
Come
trust me,
on.
I'm trying. I'm trying. I know so many artists down there that I would just love to like just go hang out with and
Yep.
write, just sit down and write with and stuff like that. So it's
I feel
always
like
been.
I feel like I've become like Nashville's like beacon since coming here. I'm just like, everybody I talk to, I'm like, move to Nashville. Yeah, you should. If you're even thinking about it, you should do it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
should do
No,
it.
yeah, it's always been a dream of mine to I think hopefully at some point I need to just fly down there and just come down at least for like a week or two, really get the whole scene,
Yes,
draw it all in. So I think
do
at
it.
some point this year, I already have been talking to my mom, because my mom wants to go. She's like, you're not going without me. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. But so we've been planning that. So hopefully maybe at some point this year I'll get down there and just really get the scene in, because that's just always been
Yeah,
that's always been a goal of mine.
perfect. Do it. I'm all for it.
No,
It's
exactly.
the best city here
I know, trust me.
for music, I
I'm
think.
tired of all the snow up here in Massachusetts. So I need to come down there where at least it's a little nicer.
Well, it
Um,
still may snow down here, but it should be 68 degrees 2 days later. So just hang around long enough.
okay, that's basically Massachusetts in a nutshell too. Um, so that's pretty much all the questions I have for today. And now getting into the good part. It's always my favorite part of the interview. I mean, I love hearing artist stories, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
hearing music by them and just hearing a performance is always my
Yeah.
favorite part. So the last couple of episodes that I've had, there's no pressure here, but the last
Mm.
couple of episodes, I normally don't get chills, but I've been getting chills
Ooh.
from performances. So it's
Okay.
basically the new rule is if I don't get chills, then I don't know if this interview is actually going to ever air. But
Oh no. Okay. 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 The pressure is on now. The pressure
but
is
I will put
definitely on.
myself on mute so there's no audio interference or anything. You can kind of let the people know what song you're gonna do. If you want to tell any backstories about it, whatever, and the floor is yours.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm actually going to play my new single. So a little sneak peek. If you like what you hear, please feel free to check me out. It'll be out on April the 8th. This song is called Mass. Like I said, it's kind of the most vulnerable song that I've put out so far. And I was just in the room with a couple of friends this day and was kind of talking about how I tend to be kind of closed off in relationships. And that's where this stemmed from. And I co-wrote this with Antonio Marias and Lane Roy. So here we go. All my life I've been hiding behind the same smile. Wouldn't let nobody in, 'cause nobody's innocent. And all my life I've been running from myself, 'cause I got all these secrets that I'm not sure I should tell. But I'll take off this mask for you. I'll let you break down these walls, just catch me if I fall. I'll take off this mask for you. Answer every question that you want to ask. I'll take off this mask for you. All my life I've pushed people away. Never thought I'd find someone who choose to stay. But I know when I'm with you, I am safe. I wanna let you in. Please have a little grace, and I'll take off this mask for you. I'll let you break down these walls, just catch me if I fall. I'll take off this mask for you. Answer every question that you want to ask. I'll take off this mask for you. For you. Darling, I'll let you in when the strangers are gone and we're all alone. I'll take off this mask for you. I'll let you break down these walls, just catch me if I fall. I'll take off this mask for you. Answer every question that you want to ask. I'll take off this mask for you. For you. For you.
Well, I will say this interview will get to air because I do have chills. So.
Perfect. I passed the test.
You passed the test. No, literally, it's like a test at this point. I forget who kickstarted. I really forget who kickstarted this. I think I want to say it had to have been Kelly and Kat. Shout out to them, obviously. I think they were the ones that started the whole chills or go home thing. Like that's just That's where it started. Like it
Perfect.
was probably like 6 or 7 episodes now. So as long as you pass that test, awesome
Glad to,
song,
glad
amazing
to know I
vocals,
did.
like just great performance. Like I said, I'm definitely a huge fan. That's why I asked you to be on the show, and I've just you're super super talented, and obviously can't wait for that song to come out on April 8th, you said.
April the 8th. Yes.
Perfect. I am excited for that. Just excited for what else is to come for you, and like I said, just thank you so much for taking time to be on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. Lovely to
No,
talk with you.
no, exactly. Kind of before I have to do my little outro, like people know, is where can we find you on social medias?
I am pretty much on every social media possible. Um, Instagram is Gabrielle Metz Music. I'm on TikTok as well. My Twitter and Facebook are just Gab Metz Music. Or you can find it all in one place at gabriellemetz.com.
Perfect. Plain and simple, like how that is. Just go to gabriellemetz.com and find everything right there. That's the stuff I like right there.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. So again, Gabrielle, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this
Thank
interview.
you.
Really appreciate it. And like I said, just look forward to what else is coming from you.
Absolutely. I look forward to hopefully talking with you again.
Oh no, absolutely. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is doing these and making connections and opening new doors, because you never know where it's going to go.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, that kind of wraps up another episode of the Spotlight series. I mean, we're up over 50 episodes, 60 episodes now, something like that. You all know the drill at this point is every Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. You can catch a new artist, and I will see you all next week. And thanks for tuning in.